Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ivy Cirillo, and I'm so excited to welcome you to today's personal and professional development session. We have some great speakers and a couple of giving faculty members present as well, and I know that quite a few of you will be trickling in, so we won't get to the juicy stuff quite yet. I wanted to first introduce a couple of people, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll open up the floor for the audience to do a Q&A. To honor the time of our speakers, we ask that you type your questions into the Q&A chat as you have them, and then at the end of the session, you are more than welcome to unmute and ask the questions yourself. But then if you aren't interested in that, you don't want to show up on camera, you don't want to show up on audio, that's totally fine. We are happy to ask the questions for you. And there will be some time for sharing feedback or best practices and at the end, and we encourage you to engage and be a part of the conversation. I know some of you might be joining us over your lunch hour and you might not want to have your camera on as you're getting a bite to eat, and that is more than okay. We just ask that you remain muted until we open up the conversation for everyone. After the session, I will be sure to send everyone a copy of the slides and connect you with each of the guest speakers and the resources mentioned today. Of course, if there's any accommodations you need throughout this session, please don't hesitate to let us know. You are more than welcome to turn on closed captions on your end, and we'll send out the video recording as well. And if there aren't any questions at this time, we'll get started with introductions. And we'd love to get to know you too. So as we're introducing ourselves, please feel free to drop your name and where you're joining us from in the chat so we can connect with you that way. So I will go first. My name is Ivy Cirillo, and I'm the new Marketing, Communications, and Events Manager at United Way Next. I joined the team I'd say maybe 6 weeks ago, a little earlier in the year, and originally came from Student Party United Way, and I'm a member of Next myself. I'm also a published author, public speaker, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And next, I want to go ahead and introduce you to my original connection to United Way Next and someone I'm honored to work with every day, our president and CEO, Carol Peters. If you wouldn't mind, you're already unmuted, and just saying a quick hello.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's so good to see you. I love looking around the Zoom room and seeing familiar names and faces. Quentin, I'm glad you joined today, and Graham and Jennifer and Danielle Baker. It's so good to see you. Being a part of United Way Next is about making connections that make a difference. And I'm confident today that you're going to hear some great content and learn some wonderful information that's going to really help you in the roles that you play. So thanks for being here, and I will turn it over to Denise Fleckenstein, one of our plan giving faculty members and one of our facilitators for today.
Thank you, Carol. Good afternoon, everyone. Denise Fleckenstein. I am a United Way Next faculty member, and I spent 20 years in the nonprofit world, primarily facilitating and building plan giving programs for several organizations. The last 12 years of my nonprofit tenure was with United Way for Southeastern Michigan. And I was very blessed and had a very wonderful experience being on the National Major Gift and Plan Giving Council with United Way Worldwide, where I met so many great colleagues, being able to share information and help the network that way. Today, I am just thrilled that we are starting the first of 3 plan giving boot camps. And these boot camps were developed to build on each other. So I would encourage all of you after this session to sign up for the next 2 sessions, because I think they're going to be very, very, very helpful in building upon your expertise as you start to learn more and more about plan giving. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Eve Powell.
Thanks, Denise. Hello, everyone. Good to be with you today. Glad you're here to join us. We have 2 great speakers, so we're really excited to get going. I, like Denise, have about over 25 years in nonprofit and with the United Way system. My most recent position was with United Way of Greater Atlanta, and I love plan giving, and I know that it's the future for most of us, and certainly for United Way. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it right over to our speakers. I know we want to get going. And so I'm turning this over to Jeffrey Stec.
Thanks, Eve. My name is Jeffrey Stec. I practiced law for about 10 years. I was a litigator. I was at a big firm. I was with some friends doing little tiny cases. And I didn't like litigating. And a friend said, you might really like plan giving because it's sort of legal. And I thought, wow, that's funny because I got the top grade in my class in estate planning in law school and, of course, became a litigator. So I got into plan giving at the United Way of Greater Cincinnati. They hadn't had a program before, so I started their program. So I had no idea what I was doing as far as fundraising wise. And I realized that the universities have set a standard for plan giving, which is way beyond what 99% of any of us as fundraisers actually need to be capable of doing. And so I've created a program for the local Plan Giving Council called Plan Giving on the Run, how to do less and raise more, essentially. So with that, I will turn it over to Rochelle to introduce herself.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm Rochelle Zeidman, and I was the Director of U.S. and International Giving for United Way Worldwide. And I had the privilege and wonderful experience of working with a lot of colleagues, some of which are on the phone and in the video right now. So my background also includes 14 years with the American National Red Cross, and then Managing Director of Development at CFB Board Center for Financial Planning. And over the last 7 years, I've been doing consulting to small, medium, and large organizations, some of which has been with Planned Giving, and I'm on the United Way Next faculty member group. And I'm delighted to be here today, so thank you. With that, I'm gonna turn it over to our special guest, Maggie McDonald, and she is the VP of Legacy Gifts at United Way of Central Alabama, and we're thrilled to have her join us.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, my name is Maggie McDonald. I have been on staff here at United Way of Central Alabama for the past 7 years. Little fun fact about me is I actually started my career at United Way of Central Alabama right after grad school, and that was about 25 years ago. And I worked in our community initiatives department and decided, you know what, I really want to go and pursue a career in fundraising. So I left United Way, which makes no sense. But I did go on and raise money for a small liberal arts college in Birmingham. And then after my next role was with the YWCA of Central Alabama, where I served as Chief Development Officer. Little bit about kind of where we are as an organization. We have a fairly robust plan giving program, but I will be honest, I had virtually no experience in plan giving before I stepped into this role. I knew enough to be dangerous, but I had not had much experience in regards to soliciting plan gifts. Our endowment started in 1990, so we are a little bit older than some endowments within the network. Today, the value of our endowment is $34 million in actuals and $72 million in expectancies. We are also in year 3 of a 5-year centennial campaign to raise our endowment in actual and expected. Our initial goal that became a milestone last year was $100 million, and we are at 106.5 as of today with 2 years left. So it's going very well, but we're in a different spot than a lot of United Way. So I hope that our experience can help pave the way for some of you to really get your programs up and going. That's me.
Okay, so Ivy, is this where we go into the slide? Okay, great.
Yep, so I am owning the slides, so I will go ahead and pull those up for you guys right now, and you just let me know when you want me to advance forward.
Okay, great. I will get us started. Okay, I can't do all that rethinking objections to starting a plan giving program, so it's about how to do less and the things you don't have to do. I should say I tend to be a little extreme with that. Rochelle and Maggie will sort of rein us back to a little bit more of a middle ground, but generally err on the side of not worrying about that. So we have a poll question. What has stopped you from starting your plan giving program? And Ivy, I can't remember if we've got an actual poll where they're going to click on it or whether they're putting that in the chat.
So we've got a poll scheduled for after the third slide, but for these
All right,
one,
my bad.
if-
Okay, so just think about that. Just have that in your mind. What are the things that you said, yeah, everybody's heard, you've got to do planned giving, 40 trillion, we've been saying this for a couple of decades, 40-50 trillion dollar in wealth transfer, and it's going to perpetually happen. So you got to get in on that. And the average bequest is over $40,000 these days. So they're bigger gifts. You got to start. But what gets in the way? What's the thing? Say, I can't do that because. Maybe
Next slide, please. Thank you.
slide, please. Maybe write down a couple of those things as we go through.
Mhm.
So go ahead, Meg. Go ahead, Ivy. So we've got three basic challenges. One is bandwidth, just the time that it takes to do this. Other priorities, no time, staff capacity is challenged. Second basic challenge are technical competencies. That's all the legal and tax stuff, just all these complicated planned giving instruments. And the third basic challenge are the basically cannibalizing the annual campaign. How do we do annual and deferred giving at the same time? So let's dive into challenge one. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. So, sorry, my bad. Which of these major challenges have affected you more than the others? Or all, you can do all, as many as you want. Select which ones have stopped you. Oh, I should answer too.
I love the participation so far already. Sometimes you attend Zoom calls and only 3 people answer, but so far 20 of the 30 present have answered already.
Wow, that's impressive.
And we'll give it a couple more seconds just in case anyone else wants to answer, and then I'll go ahead and end the poll and we can see the results. Right now it looks like challenge 1 is, I don't want to say winning, but it is in the lead, and they're actually in order of the challenges marked on the slide.
Wow.
Okay, great. Well, and challenge 1 is the hardest one to not worry about because it's in front of you every day, and it's
Wow.
the hardest. We have some thoughts about that, but they're not easy to implement. So let's go to challenge 1, Ivy. Anybody want to jump in that just wants to give us a little tiny story of an example of this problem at your United Way that stopped you? And you can just jump in, start talking.
If you're more comfortable, you can always answer the question in the chat as well.
I think this is Christy Gizma. I'm with the United Way of Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. I think for us, one of the issues is that we're working on rebuilding like our leadership in Tocqueville giving programs. And so a lot of people we would be having conversations with about planned giving, we're trying to figure out how to do all of this at the same time and like trying to like build foundations of things. And the planned giving piece is really important and we need to make it happen, but it's trying to figure out how to do all the things at once because we're trying to just rebuild a lot right now. And obviously that relates to staff and bandwidth because, we have a relatively small team. And so what to do that makes sense with the size of the team that we have and also while growing multiple other priorities.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. And just for staff and donors, just the confusion of, wait, how many different societies do you want me to join at the same time? Yeah, I got it. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Next slide, we'll get into some of our thoughts, which I'll cover quickly and then turn it over to Rochelle and Maggie for some illumination. So here's some possible solutions. The big one is adding planned giving to what you already do so that you're not inventing anything new. So a lot of places include United Way in your will at the bottom of all your letterhead. You could just mention it during a donor call. Hey, if you're doing your will, just think of us, give us a buzz when that comes up. At our Tocqueville events here in Cincinnati, which we got rolling back in 2000, 2005, we always mentioned it from the podium. Just a quick, we've got these little brochures over there. If you're doing your estate plan, keep us in mind. Just adding one page to your website, your social media, simple cut and paste from other United Ways, a short article in your annual report, get lots of cut and pastes from national plan giving houses like Robert Sharp. You can add a letter to your gift confirmation. Thank you for your annual gift. Don't forget, if you've been given for a long time, you can even, pull out folks who've been given for a long time. Thank you for giving again. Leave us a legacy or include us in your estate plan if you want to continue that after you pass on. Next slide.
Maybe.
Use volunteers. They can get a lot of work done. One champion, one person who's made a planned gift that can talk to the folks they know, especially here in Cincinnati, was with all you guys, a very business centric. We got a CEO. That CEO is passionate about legacy giving, carried our water for a long time, very helpful. Then that person can find a couple other people and they get a lot done. And really just take little steps. It's the consistency over time. So if you did an hour per month, 1 month you did an hour to get this on the website, 1 month you did an hour to put it on your letterhead, 1 month you did an hour, you just do that over 10 years, you'll be amazed at how many planned gifts come in, because it's just folks deal with their estate plan, they deal with that just at random times in their life, and they just need to see that one little, oh, that's right, they've been asking me to do that. So little things consistently is what generates results. So with that, let me turn it to Rochelle and then to Maggie to add some color to these potential solutions.
I'll just add, this will come up later in the session, but having the conversation on in terms of a legacy gift, in terms of what the individual wants to do and show in the community, can be part of how you're getting to know that potential large donor, and really gets you closer to the mindset of that individual in terms of motivation and, a potential gift in terms of a bequest. So I'll just add that at this point, and then Maggie, if you have anything else to add, that'd be great.
Yeah, I do. Two things. First, the way our plan giving program started was that our CEO at the time, Dan Dunn, was passionate and still is very passionate about legacy. And he wasn't afraid to talk about it. So it started with him talking to some of our donors, a board member or two, and he found that board member that this struck a chord with him, and he donated the seed funding to pay for the staff for our program for the first 3 years. So that's really how we got our start, and it was just by simply talking about it. The second piece that I think is clutch to really getting anything new in United Way World off the ground is having that volunteer buy-in. That is clutch. It is why we have been successful. And one of the ways that I would recommend considering, especially if you're in the beginning stages, is to have a volunteer on your board that is dedicated to plan giving. We have a plan giving chair that sits on our board and sits at the table at our executive committee and is the voice for plan giving at the board level. Our CEO and board president continue to see that as a priority, and it has made a significant difference in the ease by which we do our work. So volunteers, absolutely. And just don't be afraid to talk about it. Even if it's, gosh, we've thought about doing this. What do you think? Asking volunteers what they think about it. Because I guarantee you, they are getting asked by their college universities, their churches or synagogues, but they're being talked to about it. So we might as well be at the table as well. We should be.
Maggie, that's a great point. They are getting talked to. And the question is, hey, do you think we should do plan giving? They will explode with, oh my God, I can't believe you haven't brought this up already.
I agree.
40 trillion in wealth transfer, et cetera, et cetera. Anything else, Maggie or Rochelle, before we
I'll just add one more thing, and that's just because I can't resist, and that is that in all the areas, I looked at Giving USA, the latest report, which is based on, it was a 2024 report, but the numbers are 2023. And bequests are up, or were up at that point by 4.8%. So in other words, we're seeing a growth trend there in terms of individuals are giving in this way. And so it is a growth trend, meaning that it's an area of expansion in many organizations.
And let me open it up to the room. Anybody have some burning questions? And we're going to have time at the end for folks to sort of reflect on everything that we're talking about. But anybody have some questions? Folks, Spencer, thank you.
Thanks so much. Hey, Spencer Hayworth from the United Way of South Central Michigan. I'm curious about the volunteer. How have you really engaged those volunteers? What have you done to put them to work?
Sure.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Go ahead. So we actually have a committee. So we have a chair, and that chair recruited their committee. And we put prospects in front of them and ask them, the ask for this group of volunteers is, we need your help opening the door. And that is a very different ask from a TOEFL level ask. So that's the first thing. They will call up their friends and use their sphere of influence to say, hey, I've done this. And if you would consider doing this, I would love for Maggie to come and visit you, or for Graham to come and visit you. And that has been very, very successful for us, because we can cold call anybody. I talk to strangers for a living. I love it. But if I've got the introduction from a peer, it makes all the difference in the world. So we do a lot of prospecting. The other thing that we do is we collaborate with our TOEFL team. So we have a volunteer group that works on our TOEFL Society growth each year, and we collaborate with them on, in particular, major donors where a dual ask is key. So instead of asking for a planned gift at a different time from the annual campaign, we ask them for both at the same time. So there's a lot of collaboration with TOEFL volunteers as well. Does that answer your question? Okay.
The key there, I think, Maggie, is it's a different kind of ask. And it's not just, it's even easier than, would you want to talk to Maggie about it? It's, hey, friend, what are your life priorities when it comes to giving back to the community? I know you give to the arts and your church and all, because they know that person. Where does human services fit in that hierarchy of giving for you? What's your life all about? What do you want to live on? I mean, these are things that people that are getting 50, 55, 60, they want to talk to their friends about that. It's an easy, very personal conversation to have with people, and that's all you're asking people to do, essentially. Rochelle, you have any thoughts about that before we, or Maggie? It looks like you've got.
Yeah, the other piece that I think is clutch with volunteers is they love to spill the tea. They know their friends. They know when their friends are finding themselves in a liquid moment, meaning liquid cash, not necessarily liquid drink, but it could be both. You just never know. But knowing what their life circumstances are, and if it is a good or if it is a bad time to have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
And also the size of the gift. Think about it. The biggest worry for us is, are we asking for enough or are we asking for too much? They can help guide that process rather than asking somebody for a $250,000 bequest. They may be in a position to make $1 million gift. So you don't want to leave that on the table. And the volunteers certainly do help provide you with insight on their financial capabilities at that given time. Yeah.
Now that's level 2 volunteer involvement, right? So if we want to keep coming back to how to get going,
right?
One person who's interested, and they have that one person talk to their one friend they know they want to talk to. Heather DeGaetano. But Heather, would you like? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Ironically, I gave you one hard name. It's actually not my name. My name is Taryn Anderson. I joined underneath my Senior Director of Philanthropy and Grants, Heather DeGaetano. Good try, Jeff. Maggie, so we're up the road from you guys in Chattanooga, and I loved hearing you had a strong endowment, and then you really were trying to do more with it. I think one of the things as we've had these conversations, some of the feedback that we get is people are well aware of our endowment. They know that we have tens of millions of dollars in there. And so we kind of get puzzled looks about, well, why do you need more? So did you get that as you spoke with donors, and how did you combat that and kind of tell them, no, we're not being greedy. This is actually something that we do need to continue the operations of the organization in perpetuity.
Right. It's a really important message to have for us. It's our needs will always continue to grow. The community's needs are going to be evolving throughout time, and we can't predict what the needs of the community are going to be in 50 years, but we do know that there are going to be unexpected things that happen. And our community needs this United Way to have a firm foundation so that we can react to the things that come along the way. It could very well be a tornado. I mean, I know you guys get them in Chattanooga too. It could be a tornado. It could be another pandemic. It could be a fire. You don't know what it is. But it also enables us to be nimble in capitalizing on other opportunities to leverage additional funds to come into our community. So having a strong endowment enables you to have that strong initial seed funding for foundations, et cetera, that may have those requirements before truly investing significant funds in the community.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because it shows the organization's stability, if you will, and also that it will be there in the future. In other words, that it's a promise now, but it will maintain itself for the future. Just in the interest of time, we probably should move to slide 7.
And I was just going to mention the same thing. We were also tracking the questions. We've gotten quite a few in the chat, and so we are setting those aside so that we can answer them at the end as well.
Okay, next slide, and Rochelle will take challenge 2.
Okay, so again, who has lived an example of the kind of technicalities, the legal, the tax, the giving issues in terms of the types of planned giving instruments? We know that they're charitable lead trusts, charitable remainder trusts, all sorts of things. We also know that bequests are about 80%, people putting the organization in their will, be it by a percent or in name with an amount, etc. So is there someone in the group who would like to share something in terms of an example of this problem at a local United Way?
And it might be great to hear too from some of our planned giving faculty members if they have any insight in these or experiences for these questions too.
Well, then I'll share.
Spencer has his hand up.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to share again. So this is our challenge at South Central Michigan that we're facing. We have well, as much bandwidth as most people do, and this is a planned giving is a priority for us. It's in our strategic strategy this year for fundraising. But some of the issues that we're facing are primarily just a lack of knowledge around the legal and tax specificities or specifications when it comes to individuals giving a gift. So when I'm sitting down with a donor and they have questions around what do the fees look like on certain, if they were to give to our endowment, or if they were to choose a different type of distribution, whether they want to do a longer term distribution or if they just want to do it in their bequest and it's just a one and done. And so that's kind of what we're facing right now and that's a big part of why we're attending some of these things, is just trying to educate ourselves on, what are the legal and tax, things that we need to know so we can become as much of an expert as possible when we're sitting down with our donors. One thing that we are trying to do is to have, we have some really great volunteers who are lawyers in this area that are willing to come and sit with us in some of these. But that's our biggest challenge right now.
No, don't do any of that. The only thing you need, seriously, the only thing you need to know if you are running a gift annuity program or an insurance pro, or anything that you actually do, you should probably know the details of that. Everything else, tell them to ask their lawyer. Never, ever bring your own lawyer in to answer questions. They all have their own lawyers. All you need to know is that they can increase their income, they can reduce their taxes, they can care for loved ones in a different way. That's it. My best friend did plan giving at Children's Hospital here in Cincinnati. They have $1 billion endowment. She raised, I don't know, 100 million a year, whatever ridiculous amount it was. She said she never had a single technical conversation with anybody in her entire life. Just don't do it. Don't even go there. That's the number one thing that universities have snowed us all on. Just talk to your lawyer, but they know ways you can get more money, income, you can care for your kids in a different way, and you can reduce your tax burden. Go talk to them. Eve.
Hey, Jeff, I have a problem actually to tell you about, but I did have an instance where one of my donors had actually put together a CRT, which I was not aware of, and determined during my tenure that he didn't need it anymore. He had enough income, and so he dissolved the CRT, and so we received like $147,000. So that was awesome. So, sometimes these donors do put together more complicated, estate solutions, but you can be the beneficiary of that too.
Super quick question for anyone like me. I'm a marketing girly. What is a CRT?
A CRT is a charitable. Go ahead, Eve, sorry.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
It's a charitable remainder trust. So if you give a gift, it's one of the vehicles that you can use.
And a good reason to attend the next session to learn all about those gift types.
Yep. Next slide, please. So this basically sums up what we've just said. Just learn the basics in terms of you're going to be lowering taxes, the income in terms of another way to care for a family member, etc. And of course, if you have a board member or a donor who's a volunteer on the call with you too, that's great. We've been talking about that. But don't play lawyer is the other theme here. Next slide, please. So this we've taken a step further, which is basically, some organizations say, hey, I can't do anything until I have everything in place, right? We're saying you can start having the conversations. 80% are bequests. There are plenty of policies out there at local United Ways you can look at and that are great. This is something Jeff has done is in getting a simple booklet. We're going to cover this in the next boot camp too, in terms of different plan giving vehicles. If you want to learn more about it, have it as a reference, give it to someone, etc. But we're also saying the solution is to get started. In other words, have the conversations. Maggie, Jeff, would you like to add anything?
Sure. I like to say that I know enough to be dangerous. I'm not an expert on any gift vehicle whatsoever, but the way I like to talk with donors, when I talk with a donor about making a planned gift, if they say, yeah, I'm definitely interested, the way I direct that conversation is I like to begin with the end in mind. Let's talk about what size gift you're thinking of, and then let's talk about how you can achieve that. Because each donor is going to come to the table with a different set of assets. They may have a giant life insurance policy that you wouldn't know about that they could use as an option. They may want to make a bequest, but it might be they're not planning on seeing their attorney for another 3 years. They just redid their will and they don't want to spend the money to do that right now. They just spent a lot of money to do that. So get them to start talking about it. And 10 times out of 10, in my experience, they have a team of people that are advising them as well. and they have the experts. You don't have to be the expert. I also think once you get to the point of where you kind of got things off the ground, utilize, I imagine in most United Ways, we have lawyers local attorneys who serve on your board. Utilize that relationship to start to get to know the big estate attorneys in your community, because they're folks you can call on for expertise, but you want them to make sure that they know who you are. So when they're talking with their clients, that they can say, oh yeah, no, I know Maggie, or I know Graham, or I know Jeffrey. But yeah, don't be the expert. I don't want to be the expert.
And that's another phase two. I mean, Maggie's got one of the most mature programs in the country. Every university says have events where you invite all the lawyers so they get to know you.
Yeah.
If you're really crazy one year, send a letter to the bar association, get all the addresses from the bar association and send a letter that says we do plan giving too. But that's just so much more time than it's worth when you just need to get the word out. It's fundraising. It's just talking to people. That's all it is.
Yep. The other thing that I'm glad that we mentioned in this slide, and I know we talked about it the last time that we got together, was gift acceptance policies. That's something that you can get drugged down in the weeds on.
Oh.
It took us a year and a half to revise ours when I first started, and ours are really good. So if you want to look at ours, I'll send them to you. There's a network of people within the United Way network that we're happy to share our gift acceptance policies and why we accept some gifts and not. Utilize each other, utilize us as a network of experts to get your things, get your policies in order, that kind of thing. So I'm happy to share mine.
And right now, every one of your organizations has an ad hoc de facto gift acceptance policy, which is your board. If you get a gift that comes in and says, hey, I want to sell you this old car that I say, or a piece of land that's got toxic waste on it, the board just says, no, we won't take that, right? 80% are bequests. They just come in. So you can do tons of work without gift acceptance policies, because the board will deal with it ad hoc, or your finance committee will deal with it ad hoc. If you have enough gifts coming in that you're like, oh my God, we need gift acceptance policies, you're not going to worry about spending the time on gift acceptance policies.
I just want to add that the United Way network is so rich with talent and knowledge that I really hope people will reach out to peers and to people on the faculty, etc. Because really, it's all there for you. So it's all great information. I guess we're on to the next slide in the interest of time. Jeff, your turn.
Then we've got a quick example of when you've had this panic about, oh my God, if I do plan giving, I'm going to kill my annual campaign. Okay, well, let's go on to the next slide because we are tight on time. Danielle Liebfried, sorry for using my terrible German accent. Yeah, it does. People do worry about that, right? We worried about it in Cincinnati. The entire annual campaign, I was hired just to do plan giving. They were all terrified of me ruining whether they achieved their goals, right? So I think there is a fear of that. And well, let's get to that. The facts are that people, and this is the the big National Committee on Plan Giving, not just United Way specific. So people that give more after they've made a planned gift, when they start thinking about the future of the organization and they commit to the future, they usually start giving more in the now, because they want to make sure that it's strong now for the future. So gifts go up, annual gifts go up after people have made a planned gift. Bequests they average over $40,000. The retired teacher who gives you $250 a year, who's really frugal and passes away at age 72 with their state teachers retirement system pension, and they just write your name in there, you're getting these big gifts, right? So it's whatever you might lose in a planned gift, it's getting made up for in the long run. And almost all planned gifts are deferred. Bequests are 80%. When you add in life insurance and pension, think it's over 90, might even be 95% are deferred gifts. So it can't, by definition, take away from what you're doing now. So during the annual campaign, let's say, you don't make a double ask. You don't say, give us, the big donors we would ask for de Tocqueville or higher, give us 25,000, and let's talk about that $250,000 life insurance policy you want to do to Dow. Do you do that on the off time? Get the 25,000, get the Tocqueville gift, and then in the winter, circle back around and start talking. Hey, you've been given this Tocqueville every single year. We're saying now you've gone to 15 and 18 and 20,000. We need that going forward. Corporate, we've got all these solopreneurs and they're not connected. They don't understand the power of a united business community that supports these core services that help the entire community. We need you guys to help us make that transition over time, but you talk about that in the winter. Next slide.
Well,
Oh, that was it. Yeah. So Rochelle and Maggie, fill in on the cannibalizing thing.
I have a really cool stat that is real time that happened in 2024 at United Way of Central Alabama. We, for the first time, utilized our TOEFL volunteers that go out and ask for the TOEFL level gifts. We prospected about 150 of ours that would be ideal prospects to be plan giving prospects. And we utilized that conversation as almost like a qualifying event. We had one volunteer make, now y'all, he's the best volunteer you could ever have. Everybody needs a Jeff Stone, but he made 70 calls, and these were retention calls to TOEFL donors who have given at a $25,000 level or higher on an annual basis to ask them to renew their commitment and ask if they were in a place to have a conversation about a planned gift. 100% of those calls, those donors renewed or increased their annual gift. 100%, every single one of them. And it opened up the door to about 40 planned giving calls that my colleague Graham and I are working on right now. So it wasn't necessarily a double ask, but it was a great way to show that you can do both at the same time, and it does not pillage your annual campaign. We've seen our annual campaign increase, and we've seen our donors with planned gifts increase their annual gift on a more frequent basis.
Yeah, it's not a double ask, it's a deepen the relationship topic.
Mm-hmm.
What's in your heart that you want to live on when your heart's not living on? Might not be the most artful way to say it, but you know what I'm saying? It's a great thing to talk about that gets people into what they feel about you, right? So thank you for that. Rochelle, any thoughts about cannibalization?
Just I agree with everything, and thanks to United Way, other organizations that I've helped, one of them doubled planned gifts. So these things are really great ways to go about starting the program and then getting even further along. I think that just again, for the sake of time, let's move on to slide 12 and 13. Maybe we need to go to 13. Jeff, do you want to go there on 13?
Yeah, and we've been coming up, but just to summarize real quick, just don't worry, it's just fundraising. And Maggie said, we know enough to just to be dangerous, but you can't make a mistake, really. I mean, the board has to decide whether to take the toxic real estate, right? You can't mess up by getting out there and talking to people. It's just fundraising. Use Plan Given to deepen conversations. It's just enriches the relationship. And the other thing is it's slow. Just doing one thing a month and being consistent with these are the mailings. This is what we do at the bottom of the letterhead. We send one social media. We have, in the winter, we do X with our volunteers. Whatever it is, it's a long game. Just start and do little things forever. And then leverage in other United Ways. They can help you out. Rochelle, what are your thoughts about some of these big themes?
I think it's all true. I mean, the small, consistent steps, the leveraging the work, make it actionable in terms of, I think at one point we talked about one thing a month, maybe 3 things a month, and just to get started. I think we also want to spend some time inviting some questions, after Maggie has a minute to talk to. Maggie?
Trying to figure out how to unmute myself. It's a little loud around here today. At the end of the day, the worst thing you can do is nothing. That's truly, if you don't do anything, then you're going to have nothing come of it. Take the chance. And I think we are, as professionals, can be hesitant to start something new when things are going well in other areas, because you don't want to shake the ground. This is additive. And again, universities, hospitals, churches, and synagogues are asking your donors for planned gifts. So they're already having these conversations. We want to be at that table. That's important.
Other questions that you guys have, challenges, things that give you the night sweats when you think of planned giving?
Real quick before we get into the Q&A, it was such a great session, and I know there's lots of answers in the chat. Since some of you may have to hop off before the Q&A, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. And as a reminder, I'll be sure to follow up with you over email and send you the slides as well as the recording. You'll also be prompted to answer a super quick survey at the end of this session, which really helps us ensure you're getting the very best experience as a member for each of our events. With that being said, we're going to open up the floor for anyone that has questions now. We've been monitoring the chat, and if you'd like to unmute and ask the question yourself, you are more than welcome to. Of course, I know that Denise and Eve have been keeping an eye on the questions, and there were plenty in there, so we'd love to encourage you to hop in and get started.
See Helen unmuted. Go ahead, Helen.
Hey, Jeffrey. Thanks for this presentation. I appreciate it. I'm with United Way, Huntington County in central New Jersey. Brand new. We've had some transition in leadership and fund development professionals. It happens. People on the street have said, Joe Schmo has you in their will. And it's like, hey, Joe, how you doing?
Yes.
Just be straight. And this is what I've heard. Thank you so much. You ensure the future of blah, 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 blah.
And the reason you're calling is thank you. And you can help inspire others.
Okay.
That's the real, please help us inspire other people to do this. Maggie, would you say that would be a fair, kind of the key thing there?
Absolutely. And if for some reason, if it's a donor that you don't know very well, given that you guys are new, it can always be, hey, I wanted to come and get to know you. I understand you've done a lot for United Way. Tell me your United Way story. Ultimately, it will come out. He will share that if he wants you to know, which some donors want to keep their planned gifts anonymous, and they drive us nuts because we want to know for a lot of reasons. But more than likely by having an open-ended conversation with that donor. It's a great first call, initial call for you to be able to make in a leadership position.
That's true, that's true.
For you in the beginning, look at what I brought to the table. So.
Thank you. And very quickly, I don't want to take other people's time. In another organization, we had a very simple form that we asked people to fill out and have them signed. Wasn't legally binding, but it's a social contract. Who was the one who had like $100 million endowment? Because I want to follow you like this, but Maggie, rock on. Is that something you suggest or recommend? Or?
And our form is very simple. It is essentially a commitment form, and I make it on Microsoft Word. Like, it is not printed on fancy paper, but ultimately it outlines the type of gifts that the donor intends to, and it's an intent form, intends to leave United Way. And, a part of the conversations I always have is, at any point in time, you can change them. And so it's an opportunity for us. It's upon us to stay in contact with you and ensure that we have your planned gift on record correctly. And if at any point in time you have a change in your life that would give you the opportunity to pay this during your lifetime or parts of it, we are more than happy to continue that conversation. Also increasing your gift at any point in time is totally fine. So yes,
Right.
I will send a copy of a sample of our tip. It's so simple to Abby so she can circulate it to folks.
Thank you, Maggie. You're my new best friend.
Fantastic.
Another thing to use those commitment forms that really helped us in Cincinnati start our program was allow people to sign it and not know what they were going to give. They were making a commitment that at some point they were going to leave a planned gift, but they didn't know how much, they didn't know what kind of vehicle, they're not going to see their lawyer for 3 years, whatever it is. But this got to include them in the Legacy Society, and it builds momentum. Eve, I saw you unmuted, so my guess is you have some thoughts, and you might want to weave in things from the chat if you've got some of those things ready as well.
Well, I'm nodding my head, Jeff, because I'm loving what you're saying. Absolutely true. I tried not to hold people to a specific amount because you're right. The first step is just getting them thinking along those lines and making the commitment. I just want to make sure that Carlin Blake got her question answered. She asked, she said that there are people in her department that are afraid to ask about planned gifts to their donors because they feel like they might have to be asked questions they can't answer. So my response was, you can always say, hey, that's a great question. I'll check on that and get back to you. Or another thing you can do is take your planned giving professional with you on 1 or 2 calls. So just so you can observe how the calls go, how the conversations flow. And then I think you'll get the gist in just 1 or 2 visits really on how simple it can be. I mean, Jeff, you've talked about that. It is just a conversation. It's just a simple conversation. It doesn't have to be loaded. And you don't have to be, as we've talked about, a technical expert to just answer simple questions.
And somebody just real quick, Carolyn, I saw in the chat, they said, yeah, are there third-party booklets? Yes. And you can give somebody one of those booklets. All your questions are answered right here. Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just going to say thank you for providing the information. From a guidance standpoint, as the leader of the fundraising team, I'm giving them the same guidance that you're giving me. There's just a fear of wanting to be a subject matter expert. And so we're working on that, but we're a small United Way. And so therefore we don't have a planned giving expert to take with us. Finding a volunteer or somebody who has made an estate plan and has named the United Way is definitely a to-do that I'm going to look for and see if we can't find a volunteer to help us with that. But that's just where we're trying to grow.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I can offer another suggestion because I've had the great opportunity to work with some of the smaller local United Ways, and that is to do some just role playing straight out, with the team. And part of the United Way Next program is having someone like help to mentor and, someone who has some experience who maybe could help launch those conversations with you and partner with you as a service so that, maybe you are going to find that perfect, so to speak, volunteer that you're going to be looking for. But in the meantime, there might be some role playing that can be done just to put people at ease because, the fear is a big one. It's a real one. And
yeah, that's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
I want to thank Rochelle for bringing that up because Carlin, I was looking at you on the screen thinking, after this call today, we will include information as part of the follow-up email. And if any of you should at some point want to connect with one of our planned giving mentors, you'd be speaking to people like Jeff and Denise and Eve and Maggie and Rochelle. Although Maggie's not on our faculty, these are the people that are the folks that are engaged in United Way Next that are offering the support across the entire network. So many of them have served as mentors. So it could even be setting aside a 2-hour strategy time with your team with the mentor to really guide your team through this process. And it could be life-changing, and it's especially designed for the small to mid-size United Ways that don't have planned giving staff. So that's a great question, and thanks, Rochelle, for mentioning it.
And use us as a mentor to help with the, because lawyers always want to tell you, you got to have great gift policies, you got to have a lawyer. It's like, they won't believe you, right? Bring somebody in from the outside to say, no, don't worry about that, don't worry about that, don't worry about that, or do the role playing or whatever it is with your board, your staff, your leaders, anybody, we can help you carry the water of let's make it easier and just get rolling.
Yeah, so great conversation. And I know as we're nearing the end of our time, we haven't had a chance to answer everyone's questions, but I want you guys to know that I am going to go through our chat and save those questions that we can answer them. And Carol has already announced it. I was going to add it at the end, but we do offer planned giving mentors as well as CEO and staff mentors too. And so we will offer all of that information and how to get involved in my follow-up email so you guys can get all of those details. And then I know a ton of resources have been put into the chat, so I will try to include all of those in the email. And then if Maggie can send over the stuff that she mentioned, I'm happy to attach that for you guys. We want to create a community and environment where you guys are able to share all of these incredible resources and ask all of these questions. I feel like these events can never go on. There's never enough time for all of the questions that you guys have. So if we have maybe time for one more question, we'll open that up before we wrap up.
Well, let me just offer something, Ivy. If you want to create a document that answers every question in the chat, I would be happy, and my guess is Rochelle and Maggie would as well, or Denise or Eve. We could all collaborate in answering in some way, shape, or form every one of those questions, and then that could be emailed to everybody so that we actually address everything that you guys have said. So with that, I'll open it up to questions to.
Easy. I'll include that too.
Okay. You got my email. So other questions, concerns?
I thought this was an excellent session. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And Denise, maybe if you want to mention a little bit more about the upcoming boot camps. I know
I was just waiting to do that.
Perfect.
Okay, on Wednesday, March 26th, the boot camp is going to be on basic plan giving vehicles and gift acceptance policies, and it's going to be presented by Roma Bose. And I would say, this is a good place to just start to get the basics, and don't feel like you're going to be overwhelmed with that information. I will tell you that when I started out in this profession, I didn't know anything either. So it's a little step at a time to learn about what you can do. And it's all about having that conversation with your donor first and foremost. But it's good to be knowledgeable about things as well. On Wednesday, April 23rd, Carla Krasno is going to present Leveraging Volunteers, Prospecting, Marketing Recognition, and Building Relationships with the Finance Department and Key Stakeholders. I have to tell you, the Finance Department were my best friends. More on that for that session. But I'm thrilled that you were all able to join us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and one quick question we received about the sessions you just mentioned is if anybody can't make it, do just what you did for this one. You just go ahead and register, and then I'll have your email and I'll be able to send you the recording afterwards. So even if you can't show up or you can only show up for the last 15 minutes of it, feel free to register for those, and I'll include the link to register for the next event in my follow-up email as well.